Good day to my treasured friends. Rabina Shah here again. This is video number 3. I'm about to speak to the world about our creation story here now to some extent. And our creation story um, and the penalty speaks to the penalty that we paid for the violations of natural law, which is the foundation of our nation and its religion, law, politics, and what is described as culture nowadays. And this ought to be dealt with at this time. But due to our progenitor's duty to compensate for his mistakes, led him to escape from the mainland of the Orinoco Delta in Venezuela to Nabarima Island, the northern end or Itona of our cosmological world, where he restored or resurrected the traditions of our dear ancestors, you see. I think that this resurrection of our ancestors' traditions are very salient, to the Warao nation and to even the world. Given that same, is the foundation of any nation. The tradition is the foundation of a nation. And it speaks to a lot of things, law and traditions and that sort of thing. Now, although Black's Law dictionaries seek to establish the question of a nation as equal to a state by its definition, you know, I'd like you to look at what is their version of a nation and a state is now. So we'll go into that here now, right? A nation, according to Black's Law Dictionary, is a large group or body of people with a common tradition, a common language, and a common territory, usually constituting a political entity. A single nation may be divided into several states. Conversely, a single state may comprise several nations. And this was said by John Salmon in Jurisprudence 136, Glanville, I. Williams, the 10th edition of 1947. Our progenitor, Haburi, was the son of a shaman known as the roaster. That means he roasted what is called wild hog or pig then, and ate. And he had the capacity to shamanically fly, to literally fly from one point to another. He flew from the southeast to the northwest into the Otters People Territory, which is a tribal subdivision of the Warao Nation, which speaks to the Hoa shamanism, which is the shamanism of darkness or ancestral worship, and so on, you know. And he landed in the area where he saw, two young ladies cooking what is called the Moorish palm, which is the heart within the stem of the Moorish palm tree. It's made almost into like a flower and so on. So there were two girls there, cooking the food and so on, and he was looking at them from behind a leaf in the bush. And they left and went to bathe, in the river. And while they were bathing, he approached a large pot of food and tasted it. Being hungry from flying for so long and all of that, he ate the entire pot of food. And the girls came back and discovered him eating the food, or stealing the food rather. So they explained to him, look, that when the members of the band or family return, they shall have to explain, what happened to the food, because this food was being prepared for the entire band. Well, he said he was very sorry. He got carried away by the taste of the food. It's something he never ate before and thing. And the girls explained to him in any case that they would be blamed, and if he is caught, the penalty for theft is death. So they agreed, all three, to run away rather than to face the wrath of hungry people with strict traditional laws. So he took them on his back and he flew with them to his abode. There, um, he married one of the girls and she had a child named Haburi, you know, and they lived for a short period together. But the girl's parents and band shaman found out the truth from the spirits of the forest, and the animals and the trees and nature. They all testified to the truth of what took place. I mean, those days and even these days, people could speak to the animals and so on and communicate with nature to know what take place. So the guilty were now the fugitives of all who heard the truth and so on. So that Papa Bois, who is the king of the forest, the spirit of justice, who is the father and protector of the forest, sought justice on behalf of the people and nature. So he killed the rooster, Ohaburi's father, taking the form of a jaguar. The girls and the baby ran to the southwest into shamanic Mother Wauta's territory. As another shaman, but a mother shaman this time instead of a male shaman. She, knowing the truth by connecting with the spirits, asked Papa Bois to save the woman and the innocent child as she decided to save them. But Papa Bois was intent to kill everybody to set an example that this thing would not be tolerated on his watch. So the shamanic power of Mother Wauta was stronger than that of Papa Bois, for she was duty bound to save the innocent child. So she killed Papa Bois, you know. And the child she took into her care, and the woman she sent away into the forest on the ground that they should have stood with their husband, and so defended the child rather than run. Well, Wauta Mother shamanic power was taught to Haburi, so she taught Haburi her shamanic powers. So from the age of 1 year and 6 months, so that was the age, that the incident took place, and so on. And it became the tradition, was the tradition which permits, the shamanic law to be taught to any youngster, you see, from a very early age, you know. So she taught him the language of the gods, the discipline of fasting and prayer, and serving the fire, and gave him all the shamanic paraphernalia to be a shaman. And he was inducted to all forms of shamanism, the three forms of shamanism. And by age 12, he was a fully fledged shaman, per se. He did not remember his parents or anything like that, for he was, a baby at that time when all this incident occurred. And Wauta mother, the mother of the shamans, knowing her time to return home, well, to die then, from whence she came, prepared for the occasion and taught Haburi the departure ceremony, which he conscientiously performed, and her departure was executed as she left the body and left Haburi alone in the forest, practicing shamanism and living in harmony with nature under the rule of natural law. So, Wauta turned him into a full-grown man before she died, while pursuing and so on, so that while pursuing the forest, he met with his mother and the other girl. Not knowing each other, his mother being familiar with the role of a wife and so on, seduced her son unknowingly into sexual experience and so on. But the other girl saw a birthmark on Haburi, and she remembered, when he was a child. So she informed the mother of the violation against nature, and the mother accused her of jealousy and so on. But she informed Haburi, who repented, and so forth. But the spirits and life forms of the forest spread the news, and Haburi and his mother and this young virgin girl had to flee the Orinoco Delta, you see. So the Great Spirit taught him to make a canoe by shamanic guidance. There's a whole ceremony that is performed when making a canoe. It's not something that you do just like that. And with this canoe, he and his two ladies escaped to the northern earth gods of our cosmological world known as Nabarima Island. And these two gods were named Waro Waro and Nab Arima. And their names have symbolic and historical nature in the spirit world, you see. And here I wish to explain one of the earth gods' name, who is Nab, which means the spirit of the waves in the ocean, and Arima, which means the father. So Nabarima, in essence, means the father of the waves. And the father of the waves was given to this mountain because when our people disobeyed the laws of nature, and nature retaliated, sunk the, 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 the eastern part of South America under the sea, and a great earthquake and deluge and so on. This hill remains, so this hill was called the father of the whales, for it survived, the whole insurrection and so on, and did not sink. All other things around it, sank except Nabarima Hill, so it's called Nabarima, which is, the father of the ocean. So, the father of the wave, which speaks to history of the penalty paid by our ancestors known as the Shell Gouge people and the Stone Age people, who live in the period then. Due to their violations of nature and other life forms like the extinct glyptons and mastodons, etc., this calamity fell upon them. And we have evidence from Professor Irving Rouse and Cruikshank, who found archaeological evidence to support our oral history in this regard. In Trinidad or Nabarima Island, a stone spear was found in Beach, similar to that found by the above-mentioned scientists in Venezuela or the Orinoco Delta there and so forth. And as such, now to escape to the Nabarima Island, Haburi escaped, with the sacred canoe. So Wa means the canoe, and Arao means the Haburi descendants or the people who inherited the canoe-making sacred science. On arrival, uh, yeah, all right. Forgive me there, I had a little somebody called there. Sacred science. On arrival at the abode of the mountain where the northern earth gods of our cosmological world was located, Haburi married the other girl, and he practiced severe fasting and communicated with the earth gods, who revealed the laws of nature unto him, known to us as natural law or Warao traditions. And after years of this discipline, he was forgiven by the gods and instructed to marry the girl aforementioned. And they had one son and one daughter, and they were taught the shamanic order. And the French folklore called them Papa Bois and Mama Ziglu. I am not privy to the name in the Warao language of Papa Bois, except that he was the father of the forest, and his sister, the Warani, which was her Warao name, was the mother of the forest. So his father Haburi taught him the spiritual science of shamanism, and canoe making, and to the mother of the forest the shamanic teachings of Mother Wauta, you know. So symbolic expressions of spirits, in flesh and other life forms, is contained in the secret language of communication with the spirits and so on. I think it was called Biakaran. Well, I do not know this language, I am not a true shaman, and there is none I know in Nabarima Island, except my grandfather Peter Machan, who I was told was a shaman. So with this in mind, dear friends, I wish to stop here again, and this I think is my third video. And my next video I will deal with video number 4, and my hope is to meet with the shamans and so on, and